So picture yourself standing in a space that's so vast you literally can't see the ceiling.
Right. Just total emptiness.
Yeah, but it's so suffocatingly dark that the air itself almost feels heavy, like you are deep underground, miles from the surface.
Oh, that is terrifying to even think about.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And the only thing keeping you tethered to the world of the living is this sputtering torch in your hand. And then with just a quiet hiss, that torch dies.
Wow. Game over.
Exactly. You don't just lose light, you lose your entire reality. The darkness isn't just an absence anymore. It feels palpable, like it's pressing against your skin.
It's a total sensory wipeout.
It really is. And this isn't just some hypothetical survival scenario we're making up. It's the reality we're plunging into today with a classic piece of source material. It's a story called The Beast in the Cave.
Yeah, and it is a wildly intense narrative.
For sure. So our mission for this deep dive is to explore what actually happens to the human mind when it is entirely stripped of the sensory inputs that, keep us grounded.
Right, dissecting that whole suffocating atmosphere of Mammoth Cave.
Exactly. We're going to look at this desperate fight for survival in pitch blackness and a twist that basically redefines what it means to be human.
I mean, dropping us directly into that claustrophobic nightmare is just a brilliant narrative choice by the author.
It doesn't hold back at all.
No, the text wastes absolutely no time. The protagonist's light extinguishes in the very first moments of the story, leaving him entirely enveloped in the bowels of the earth.
Which is just my absolute worst nightmare.
All right, it forces you to confront this very specific primal vulnerability immediately. Humans are intensely visually dependent creatures.
Oh, 100%. We need to see to survive.
Exactly. So when you completely sever our access to visual information, the brain doesn't just rest. It scrambles.
Like it's glitching out.
Yeah. It frantically searches for any input, and when it finds none, the psychological unraveling begins almost instantly.
Which makes the protagonist's presence down there all the more frustrating when you realize, how it actually happened.
Yeah. Oh, it's so infuriating.
Right. Because this wasn't a cave-in. He didn't slip and fall down some hidden shaft. The text is very clear that he brought this entirely upon himself.
Like he completely did.
Okay, let's unpack this. He deliberately separated from his regular party of sightseers. Like, he intentionally ditched the local guide to wander through the forbidden avenues of Mammoth Cave entirely on his own.
It is a striking display of hubris, honestly.
It really is. Like, what was he thinking?
Well, the narrative presents him as someone who believes his intellect and his philosophical background somehow elevate him above the raw, indifferent power of nature.
Which is wild.
Totally. By discarding the safety net of the guide, someone whose entire livelihood is built on understanding that complex, lethal labyrinth, he just fundamentally underestimates the environment.
He is basically the 19th century equivalent of that person who ignores the warning signs at a national park, right?
Oh, exactly. The off-trail tourist.
Yeah, going off trail for a thrill, assuming the rules just don't apply to them. But what really stands out to me is his initial reaction when the torch actually goes out.
It's not what you'd expect.
Not at all. You would expect immediate, hyperventilating panic. The text even points out that victims of similar underground situations are often thrown into these wild frenzies.
Right, just totally losing their minds.
But he doesn't panic. He just stands there in the pitch blackness and actively reasons with himself.
He tries to logic his way out of it.
Yeah. He decides that starving to death in this majestic cavern is actually a peaceful, welcome alternative to being buried in a typical boring churchyard grave.
It's wild, but his reliance on a lifetime of philosophical study acts as this temporary shield.
Like a coping mechanism.
Exactly. He is utilizing intellectualization as a defense mechanism. By framing his impending, terrifying death as a tranquil, poetic alternative to a traditional burial, he's desperately trying to maintain a sense of control.
In a situation where he literally has none.
Right. He is attempting to apply logic to a void.
But the void is so absolute. I mean, the source material emphasizes these bizarre sensory details that make the cave feel almost alien to someone from the surface.
Yeah, it's almost supernatural.
Like the temperature never changes, it's completely uniform, the air is perfectly pure, and the quiet is just absolute.
The quiet is the craziest part.
Yeah, there's no wind, no rustling leaves, no distant traffic, just dead silence.
And that dead silence is where the true psychological danger lies.
How so?
Well, when we talk about absolute darkness in a deep cave system, we aren't talking about, the darkness of a bedroom at night where your eyes eventually adjust.
Right, there's always some street lamp or moonlight.
Exactly. But down there, we are talking about an environment with 0 photons. It is a literal optical void.
Just nothing.
So to compensate, the brain acts like an audio amplifier, automatically turning up its own gain. It heightens the sensitivity of your hearing to an extreme degree, just searching for any environmental cue to map the space.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like turning the volume dial on a stereo all the way to maximum when no music is playing. You just start hearing the hiss and static of the machine itself.
That's a very apt way to describe it. And in that heightened, sensitized state, the mind starts pulling from internal reserves to fill the emptiness.
It starts playing tricks on him.
Yeah, it starts dredging up memories.
Yeah.
As the physical darkness settles in, the protagonist's thoughts transition to the dark history of Mammoth Cave itself. He begins to obsess over the colony of consumptives.
Oh man, this historical detail in the source material is deeply unsettling.
It's so morbid.
He remembers walking with the tour group earlier and seeing the sad remains of these ill-made cottages built right inside the gigantic grotto.
It is a fascinating yet really grim piece of real medical history.
Yeah, because they're real patients, right?
Yes. In the mid-19th century, doctors genuinely believed that the unique atmosphere of Mammoth Cave, the uniform temperature, the pure, dry air, could somehow cure tuberculosis, which was then known as consumption.
It sounds so crazy to us now.
It does, but patients actually took up residence inside the cave system. They built a subterranean hospital ward.
Unbelievable.
But the lack of sunlight, the dampness in certain areas, and the smoke from their own cooking fires actually worsened their conditions. As the narrative chillingly notes, they met death in strange and ghastly forms.
So wait, knowing that historical context is his memory of those ruined cottages, a sign that his stoic, philosophical mind is starting to crack under the pressure.
Oh, undoubtedly. His rational mind is buckling under the pressure of sensory deprivation.
He's not thinking about poetry anymore.
No, he is no longer just contemplating a beautiful death. He's confronting the grotesque reality of physical deterioration in the dark. He starts wondering what unnatural influence a long stay in this immense cavern exerts upon a human body.
He is practically preparing himself to become one of those ghastly forms.
Exactly.
And he doesn't have to sit with those thoughts for long. Just as he's standing there, shouting into the void in the desperate hope of being heard by the tour group, the absolute silence breaks.
Right, the turning point.
He hears a sound, and the emotional whiplash in the text is intense. First, it's a massive surge of relief. He assumes it's the guide. He thinks his shouts actually worked.
But what's fascinating here is that heightened auditory sensitivity we discussed completely changes the scenario within seconds.
Because he hears it too clearly.
Yes, the pure, distraction-free atmosphere of the cave allows him to analyze the acoustic signature of the approaching sound with terrifying precision.
Oh man.
His benumbed understanding processes a grim reality. Those footfalls are not a human guide.
Because a guide walking on hard limestone would sound sharp.
Right.
Heavy boots making incisive metallic impacts, but these sounds are soft.
Right, completely different texture.
They are stealthy. The text describes them as padding, sounding like the paws of a feline.
And the detail that truly shatters his remaining composure is the rhythm of the gait. He listens carefully to the cadence and traces the falls of 4 feet, not 2.
See, that is the ultimate nightmare scenario. You are locked in a room where you can't even see your own hand, and you suddenly realize you are in there with a predator.
And you can't see it coming.
You are waiting for a threat you can't anticipate. The narrator frantically tries to rationalize what it could be, like maybe a mountain lion that accidentally strayed miles into the cave.
Which is unlikely, so his mind immediately goes to the local subterranean ecosystem.
Like cave monsters.
He wonders if it's a beast that has lived its entire life confined in these interminable recesses. A creature that survives entirely on the eyeless fish, the bats, and the rats that populate the underground river.
Ugh, that's so creepy.
It gets worse. He even links it back to his earlier thoughts about the consumptives, conjecturing about what awful physical mutations a lifetime in the cave might induce in an animal.
And his only defense mechanism is scrambling on the ground. He literally drops to his knees on the cavern floor, groping around until he finds the largest, sharpest pieces of broken limestone he can grip in each hand.
Just primal survival instinct taking over.
Yeah. Then he just stands up, completely frozen, waiting.
The mechanics of this unseen confrontation are masterfully constructed around sound design by the author. He's petrified. He can hear the steady padding of the steps getting closer.
Just step, step, step.
And he can hear the labored, fatigued breathing of the animal. It has clearly tracked his scent from a considerable distance, hunting him through the labyrinth.
The tension the source text builds here is incredible. He feels like the darkness itself is a physical weight pressing against his chest. And then the spell breaks.
He makes his move.
Guided entirely by his hearing, projecting this mental map of the space based purely on the sound of that heavy breathing, he blindly hurls the first sharp-angled rock into the void.
And he throws with maximum force. The resulting sound tells him everything he needs to know.
What does he hear?
He hears the creature jump. The rock misses its mark, striking the cavern wall, but it forces the predator to pause and retreat slightly.
Which gives him the crucial data he needs. He readjusts his physical stance and his aim based on where the first rock landed, and he throws the second missile.
A total blind throw.
And it's a direct hit. The text describes this heavy collapse. The preacher falls to the floor and remains completely unmoving, save for these heavy, gasping respirations.
It's incredible.
Right. The narrator actually wins a fight against an unseen predator in absolute darkness.
Yet, the victory brings absolutely no comfort. In fact, it triggers a completely different psychological reaction. This is the moment we witness the total collapse of his civilized intellect.
Oh, completely. His boasted philosophical reserve just evaporates. Under normal circumstances, or in a typical adventure story, the protagonist would cautiously approach the fallen threat to ensure it was dead.
To make sure he's safe.
But he refuses. A profound, groundless, superstitious fear overtakes him. He drops the idea of defending himself further, turns around, and blindly flees into the dark in a complete, frantic panic.
It really reveals how incredibly fragile the veneer of our rationality truly is.
Seriously, it was gone in an instant.
He spent his life studying philosophy, elevating himself above the wild frenzies of ordinary men. But when forced to violently confront a living, breathing threat in the primal dark, that intellectual armor proves useless.
It didn't help him at all.
Not even a little. His higher cognitive functions shut down, overridden entirely by the amygdala, the brain's fear center. He is reduced to pure, unadulterated flight.
So, as he's tearing blindly through the cave, risking a fatal fall at literally any second, he hears a new sound. Sharp metallic clicks of boots, the unmistakable sound of a human guide in heavy boots. And the reunion is jarring. The stoic, arrogant tourist who thought he didn't need anyone is reduced to a gibbering mess.
It's a complete 180.
He collapses onto the ground, desperately embracing the guide's boots, shrieking with joy, and frantically pouring out the story of the beast.
And the guide's arrival highlights the protagonist's earlier foolishness.
Because the guide wasn't lost at all.
Right. The guide had noticed his absence, and utilizing a deep, intuitive sense of direction honed by years in the environment, had successfully tracked his bypasses for 4 straight hours without getting lost.
Okay, wait, time out. Are you telling me that after surviving an actual encounter with a predator in pitch blackness, after suffering a complete mental breakdown and fleeing in primal terror, his very first instinct upon finding the guide is to say, hey, let's turn around and go back into the dark to see what I hit?
That is exactly what happens.
That makes zero sense. Why on earth would anyone suggest walking back toward the monster?
On the surface, it seems entirely contradictory to the primal flight response you just experienced.
Definitely.
However, it perfectly illustrates a powerful human psychological drive, the need for closure, and the terror of the unknown. As long as the identity of that creature remains a mystery shrouded in darkness, it will forever hold a psychological power over him.
He has to know.
Exactly. But the text explicitly notes the crucial factor that changes his mindset, the courage born of companionship.
The flashlight.
Precisely. The physical presence of another human being, combined with the technological advantage of the guide's light, instantly reestablishes the narrator's connection to the surface world.
It brings his sanity back.
Yes. The light restores a fraction of his rational mind. He is no longer helpless prey stumbling in a void. The light allows him to become an observer again, empowered by visibility.
Okay, that makes sense. So they retrace his panicked steps, cautiously advancing with the beam of the flashlight cutting through the blackness. They find the spot, and they locate the creature lying on the limestone floor.
And the description here is shocking.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The physical anatomy described in the source is deeply bizarre. It is described as being whiter than the limestone itself.
Almost glowing.
Yeah, and it resembles a huge anthropoid ape. But its hair is snow white, completely bleached of pigment from a long existence in the sunless depths. And it's shockingly thin.
We see the hallmarks of extreme troglodytic adaptation here.
Which means what exactly?
It's the physical changes that occur when an organism lives entirely in cave environments. The loss of pigmentation is expected, but the proportions are what truly confuse the narrator.
Because it doesn't look like a normal ape.
Right. While the body is emaciated, the hair on its head falls over its shoulders in a massive profusion.
And the limbs are completely wrong for an ape, too. The hands and feet don't have typical fingers. They end in long, sharp, rat-like claws. And it lacks a tail.
It's a completely mutated anatomy.
And this structure explains why the footsteps sounded so strange and unnatural. It was likely alternating between crawling on all fours and staggering on two legs.
It's a grotesque image. And the guide, recognizing it as a potential threat despite its feeble, gasping respirations, actually draws his pistol to dispatch it.
But he doesn't shoot.
No, because before he can fire, the creature makes a sound that causes the guide to completely freeze and drop his weapon.
Because it doesn't emit a roar. It doesn't make the normal note of any known animal. The narrator describes the sound as a deep-toned chattering.
Chattering, right.
It's a deeply unnatural noise. The text suggests it's perhaps the result of vocal cords that haven't been used in years, reacting to the sudden agonizing pain of the guide's bright light hitting its face for the first time.
That chattering acts as the catalyst for the final revelation. A fleeting spasm of energy rips through the dying creature. Its mutated limbs jerk, and the pale body rolls over on the stone floor, turning its face directly toward the beam of the flashlight.
And the face is pure nightmare fuel. Contrasting completely with the snow-white body, the eyes are deep, hideously pitch black. They are deeply sunken into the skull, and they have absolutely no irises. But as the narrator forces himself to look closer, the true horror sets in.
The realization.
Yeah, the facial structure isn't ape-like at all. The nose is distinctly formed. And then those thick lips open again. It doesn't just chatter this time.
No, it forms words.
It pushes out actual recognizable sounds. It speaks actual words before finally going limp and dying.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is the devastating twist that recontextualizes the entire narrative. It changes everything.
The narrator's profound fear vanishes in an instant, completely replaced by a wave of wonder, awe, and deep compassion. The horrifying realization crashes over him, the strange beast of the unfathomed cave. This pale, crawling, clawed monster that he just bludgeoned to death was not an animal.
Wow.
It was or had once been a human being.
So what does this all mean? The guy he fought in the dark was a man. Does the text ever clarify who it was? Like, was it one of the consumptives who didn't die of tuberculosis but instead just wandered off and devolved? Or maybe another arrogant tourist from decades ago who lost his guide and his light?
Well, the author leaves the specific identity entirely ambiguous, and honestly, that ambiguity is the engine of the story's true horror.
It could be anyone.
Exactly. It fundamentally does not matter who the man was before he got lost. The core terror lies in what the absolute darkness did to him.
It broke him down. The story is a brutal exploration of the fragility of the human condition. It suggests that when a person is entirely removed from the light, from the structures of society, from every single tether of civilization, the cave doesn't merely claim their life.
It does something much worse.
It systematically strips away their humanity, layer by layer.
It degrades the physical body, bleaching the skin and growing rat-like claws for survival, while completely obliterating the mind.
Yes, until all that remains is a blind, crawling beast, hunting purely by scent in the dark, driven by base animal instincts.
It acts as the ultimate cautionary tale against the exact arrogance our protagonist displayed at the very beginning of his journey.
Full circle.
He thought his intellect made him superior. He purposefully wandered off the path. And in the span of just a few hours, he experienced the profound sensory deprivation of the cave, the desperate, unthinking violence of the blind battle, and the complete shattering of his own philosophical composure.
He lost control immediately.
Yeah, he got a very small taste of the exact isolation that forged the monster lying dead at his feet.
The narrative operates so effectively because it forces us to confront our most primal anxieties. It is not simply the fear of a predator in the dark, it is the fear of losing ourselves entirely.
Of becoming the monster.
The story forces you to question how much of what we consider to be our humanity, our reason, our empathy, our language is actually intrinsic to us, and how much is merely a product of our environment and our connection to other people.
That's a scary thought.
If you remove those external connections, how long does it take for the intellectual facade to crumble and for the rat-like claws to begin to grow?
Wow. That is a deeply unsettling reality to confront. We started this journey by exploring what happens when you make a simple wrong turn and step off the illuminated path.